Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. So welcome back. Another episode of Being Complete. And today is fifth day, what they say. And it's kind of going to be kind of loosely related. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to tighten up our tinfoil hats. And we're going to look at something that's very much conspiratorial or conspiracy theorist. And it has to do with the Charlie Kirk shooting. And we're going to look at how all of these plans, all these events of what has happened from really Charlie Kirk's childhood all the way up to the present day. And how that all of this is about Sabbath keeping. And if you're not used to the idea of Sabbath keeping, that's not for us, that's done away with, or whatever else. These are doctrines and traditions of men that aren't actually established in the Scripture. Yeah, they spin it to where it sounds that way, but it's not the way it is. And that these doctrines and traditions of men, that they are Catholic doctrines that are rooted in Gnosticism. And I have a series called From the Apostles to the Church that proves that. And so if that sounds ridiculous to you, that's where you go, to that series, From the Apostles to the Church. We have it in our playlist. And so let's get going. Okay, we're gonna take a look at this little short video here. May play a clip or two of this. I'm not sure, but mainly we want to look at this image here. And so this has been all around the internet. Most people have heard something about this. You've dismissed it. You've jumped on the bandwagon. But this movie, Snake Eyes, from 1998. This movie portrays a political figure named Charles Kirkland, very close to Charles Kirk, Charlie Kirk. That in of itself, you can't have something that's that coincidental, just that in of itself. And so this political figure, his name's Charles Kirkland, and he's at a public event and shot in the neck. Oh, this should be starting to sound familiar. Okay, these events cannot happen without it being pre-planned. People call it predictive programming, but it's not predictive. It's just the plan. And such was also done with the Titanic. There was a book called The Wreckage of the Titan. Written about 20 years before the Titanic set sail, and that particular book, it's about the largest ocean liner in the world that set sail on its maiden voyage, and on a cold April morning, that it in the North Atlantic, it hits an iceberg and sinks to the bottom of the ocean. No way. You can't get that lucky. No way. And so just like also a letter ascribed to Albert Pike, a Confederate general, this letter ascribed to him, maybe written by him, maybe not, and it really doesn't matter, but it was ascribed to him, and whoever wrote it knew what the plan was. And in this letter, he talks about a plan for 3 world wars. And the first 2 world wars happened exactly as he stated it, as this letter stated it in 1871. You can't get that lucky. It's just part of the plan by people who are socially engineering the events of the world and orchestrating the events of the world. And all of this sounds ridiculously crazy if you don't know the backstories, if you don't know all the information. All of this sounds ridiculously crazy. Just like saying that that the Sabbath, the law in general that the Father gave through Moses, that was never intended to be done away with or diminished in any way by the apostles or the Messiah, and that what such as we believe that it is, it's all doctrines and traditions of men created in religion. And so this particular movie, yeah, it's made the rounds, and in this particular image here on the screen, this this says a lot here. Executioner Tyler, Tyler Robinson, the alleged shooter, and it's been pointed out by many cases this is T versus R, TR, Tyler Robinson, and other things like that have been made connections. But it also says September the 10th here, and we're going to look at that. And other sources say, oh no, that's September the 19th, and we're going to look at that. And so we'll start off with Turning Point USA, and this Turning Point USA, what it says here is it is an American nonprofit organization that advocates for conservative politics on high school, college, and university campuses. It was founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk and Bill Montgomery. Remember that? Bill Montgomery. And so over here also, it says formation, it's 13 years old. So when Charlie Kirk was taken out of the picture, removed from the picture, okay, this organization is 13 years old. Charlie Kirk portrayed himself as a Protestant. However, his family was Catholic. His wife is Catholic. So it's questionable of how Protestant this guy really was. And so, but at Turning Point USA, it was a Protestant leaning, non-Catholic, if you will, organization. Now it is a Catholic organization. It is taken over by his wife. She is a Catholic. So now it is a Catholic organization. And so they gathered all these people on the non-Catholic side. Now it's time to flip to being Catholic. This is a gravitation to a false light. Not a true light, not the true light that the Scripture gives us, not the light of the world that the Messiah is, but a false light. A false light in religion, a false light in counterfeit religion. And so Bill Montgomery, we're going to take a look at Bill Montgomery. This is Bill Montgomery, okay? He's an American businessman, conservative activist, co-founded the conservative political organization Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. And so Charlie Kirk, when this guy was in his 70s, whenever Charlie Kirk was 18 years old. I think he was 71, 72. Charlie Kirk's 18, so this guy latches on to Charlie Kirk. This is not an accident. This is clearly seems to be pre-planned. Okay, this guy was put in place to prop up Charlie Kirk in this Turning Point USA. Now, Charlie Kirk, he was a very articulate young man at 18, and teenage boys aren't this articulate and educated on political things, and so somehow, I don't know about his, pre-Turning Point USA, how he was educated, but somewhere there's some kind of grooming toward this political ideology and being in a political sphere, being a political activist, by a parent that was given the program. And it sounds crazy, but really it's not that crazy, because we've talked about what's called the Counter-Reformation. There's Protestant Reformation, and now we have this quote CR that we've talked about it, and so this CR that was put in place back in the 1500s to counteract the Protestant Reformation. Well, it still continues on today, and the point is to bring everybody back. Okay, New World Order. The New World Order is the Old World Order reborn or revitalized. It's not a return to something new, it's a return to something old. It's a time back to the Dark Ages when the Catholic Church reigns supreme, rules supreme, and they are not to be questioned. And so on the Protestant side, all these people have been gathered up, and all these people have been taught, you don't keep the Sabbath. The Sabbath isn't for you. Well, the Catholic Church is a Sabbath-keeping church, but they keep it on the wrong day. Okay, this was the day in the Scripture is the day that we know as Saturday, and that is the right day. People question that, but that is the right day. History proves it. Historical records prove it. Historical societies and cultures prove it. And so that is the right day. And so it's been called, that's a Jewish Sabbath, we have a Christian Sabbath. No, that's just doctrines and traditions of men that are talking points. And so this particular direction back toward the Sabbath, okay, is where we're going. And so this whole ideology behind Charlie Kirk is why this is taking place. Now, a little more here on Bill Montgomery. It says, at the time, Kirk was an 18-year-old recent high school graduate from the Chicago suburbs, already active in conservative causes. After writing an op-ed for Breitbart News, what 18-year-old is writing an op-ed for Breitbart News? I mean, come on. This is just not happening unless there's people behind the scenes that set all this up, groomed him to have this kind of knowledge and this kind of articulation. Okay. So the op-ed for Breitbart News criticized liberal bias in textbook and appearing on Fox Business to discuss the national debt. Okay, what 18-year-old is on Fox Business discussing national debt? This is just not happening. Other than this is all set up, and that he was groomed for this. And hopefully, all this means that somehow that they faked his death and didn't actually shoot the guy. And that sounds crazy too, but there is a pathway to where that is possible. There is a pathway to where that is possible. And so, these efforts led to Kirk speaking at the Benedictine University's Youth Government Day event in May 2012, where Montgomery, then a 71 or 72-year-old restaurateur and marketing executive from the Chicago area, was in the audience. Impressed by Kirk's ability to captivate the crowd, describing it as waking up 400 sleeping students in 20 seconds, Montgomery approached him afterwards, encouraged him to skip college and and provided seed funding, mentorship, and organizational support to launch Turning Point USA. And so this is the guy who started Turning Point USA. He used Charlie Kirk as the face and the front man, and this is something that's actually done. And so now all this is highly conspiratorial, but especially if you're a believer in the Scripture, then you're a believer in conspiracy, okay? Because the Bible, the Scripture, is a book of conspiracy. And it starts with the enemy here. So, and the Nahash or Nakash, which is the serpent, the devil, the enemy, Satan, is more crafty than all the lives of the field or all the beasts of the field, which Yahweh, the Mighty One, had made. And he said to the woman, it is true that Elohim has said? Is it true that the Mighty One has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? So, in King James, yea, hath God said. Okay. So he questions this. So that's conspiracy. When you're questioning the authority, that's conspiracy. That's conspiracy theory. So when you're Just like with the JFK assassination, they said, oh, Oswald's the lone gunman. Well, people immediately began to question that, and they were called and labeled as conspiracy theorists. And ever since then, there has been an effort to take the name conspiracy theorist and make that as a negative connotation that you are someone who's lost their mind. You've gone to crazy town. Your tinfoil hat's too tight. So that's also the case if you're a believer in Scripture, okay? Because it is a book of conspiracy. Because as it says here in 2 Corinthians 4, and indeed, if our good news has been veiled, it has been veiled to those who are perishing, in whom the mighty one of this age, okay, the God of this age, okay, has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, okay. So the enemy, just like over here, okay, he inserted himself to Eve and elevated his word above that of the Father. And his word said, yea, hath Yah said. Okay. Is it true? Adds the question. Start questioning what he says, what the Father says. Question that. Okay. Interjects that. Steps into that place and says that and thus he blinded her mind by questioning what was the true authority. He was not the true authority, okay? But he questioned the true authority, questioned it to her. And then when it all trickles down to Adam, and Adam sins, he gives up the authority, because Yah gave Adam the authority. Okay, but he came in through the woman, got to him. Adam sins, and so that gives the authority to the enemy. And this right here states and proves that. Okay, he is the mighty one of this age. Okay, and so this is why. So he is the conspirator. He is the liar. The Messiah calls him the father of lies. Okay, so that means that everything in his world, everything in the enemy's world, where he is the mighty one of this age, in this world, the mighty one of this world, in this time, okay, that he is the one, okay, who has the authority. Okay, he is the one that in his world is a world of lies. And that's why everything you know is a lie. That's why when you think that we don't keep the Sabbath or we're New Testament, we don't do that, that's Old Testament, yeah, that's a lie. And it's a lie from the devil, because we live in the world that he created, and we are to see past that, okay? To get in here to these words in the Scripture, so that we can have eyes to see and ears to hear and go past the lies of this world. All right, so the devil, he proves, once again, the Scripture proves that the devil is the one in control, the one that has the authority. So he takes Messiah up on a high mountain and shows him all the reigns of the world in a moment of time. And the devil says to him, all this authority I shall give to you and their esteem, for it has been delivered unto me. Okay? And I'll give it to whoever I wish. If then you worship me, all shall be yours. Messiah didn't take this deal, but the rulers of this world, they took the deal. Okay, one by one, century after century, generation after generation, when these people come up in power, they come to this situation, they took the deal. The ones in power, they took the deal. Okay, so they are the ones that take the deal, and they are the ones who exercise the authority of the enemy in this world, and that's why everything's so messed up. That's why everything's a lie. Okay, and when you talk about conspiracies, okay, in particular, the JFK conspiracy that Oswald was not the lone gunman, this is proven and pretty much widely accepted today. Okay, just like 9/11, okay, that saying that 9/11 was an inside job, that's circulated now for decades, and most people know that there's some kind of conspiratorial aspect to it. That somewhere on the inside, a lot of people don't know to what degree, but that somewhere on the inside, this was allowed. This was allowed to take place. Is allowed to set up, and there's many other connections with that. But like with this, it has 11 unbelievable conspiracy theories that were actually true. And you can look up something like this. You can find different sites about different things. You have all of these things, and probably a lot of these things most people never even heard of. But you know, if you're kind of in the truth or conspiracy movement, a lot of this, you know, kind of makes sense. And probably the most notable on here are the MK Ultra and the Bohemian Grove. And most people have heard about this, and the rich and powerful, and how they go to Bohemian Grove, and you know, they have this ritual and ceremony before a big owl statue, and that it's, you know, it's really messed up. But originally, you know, if you're saying that, and they got this Bohemian Grove, you know, you just got your tinfoil hat too tight. Well, no, it's actually really true. And so as we get back into this and dive more into this, let's jump over here. Now let's see, where are we at? Let's go about here and try to play this.
On security tonight, I got a lot on my mind. Kirkland's high profile. He's all over the news and brings the nutcases out of the woodwork.
Kirkland's high profile and brings in nutcases out of the woodwork. You know, that's kind of what Charlie Kirk's shtick was. You know, that, you know, he gained a lot of reputation and notoriety, and he, you know, have these just any nutcase at all come and talk and, you know, quote, prove me wrong.
My lucky number 7.
September, who is helping out in the protection of federal asset, Secretary of State Charlie Kirkland. Secretary of State Charlie Kirkland.
Of the United States of America, Mr. Charles Kirkland. And seated next to the Secretary, a man who needs no introduction.
Great idea. Put a flashing light on your head while you're at it.
So again, in case you're not following, it is
It's a great idea. Put a flashing light on your head. So the guy's like out in the open, you know, to where he's susceptible to, you know, not being able to be as protected as he should be. And so this is kind of the whole thing with Charlie Kirk. He was always right out there, right in the open, and anything could happen. And it was, and likely probably hard to do it any other way. But, you know, again, with the September 10th, September 19th, whichever, but, you know, these are the only dates that are espoused that this could say, you know, because it's blurry. You can't really tell. And so just the fact that, you know, there's only 2 dates given, September 19th or September 10th, just the fact that it's September at all, you know, just if it's September, I mean, that's, you know, that's a 1 in 12 chance right there. But September 19th and 20, you know, that's a 1 in 363 chance. and so it's extremely unlikely that this would fall into this situation. Also, there's another scene at some point that some people have showed where there's you know, there's people with T-shirts on for whatever section that they're policing, kind of like ushers, and so they have numbers on the back of their shirts. And in one scene, there's a guy with a 9 and a guy with a 10, side by side, that people have also shown. And so this 9-10, people also shown a T-shirt, say, well, that must have been done before, but I don't think it was. There was, a week and a half or so in between the shooting and when people started talking about this T-shirt. You make that T-shirt in a few minutes these days. So plenty of time to have that up and going. For it to say September the 10th. So that doesn't prove or disprove anything. And so also here, this was in a video called She's My Kind of Crazy by Emerson Drive. And so this video right here, this is Erica Kirk. She's in the video. This is from 2012, which is the year Turning Point USA was created. It's the year that she was Miss Arizona. That's why she was in this video, because she was Miss Arizona. And this is her here ziplining, and she zip lines across where it says 910 here. Now off the screen it does say 1010 over here, so I guess this is for showing different time zones or something on this big display. And this I believe is in Las Vegas, and so you have the 910 on here, and times in movies have been widely shown to be related to dates, in particular like movies that say show a clock or a digital readout like this that says 9/11, and then it'll have some kind of point to where it's like, oh, that's a reference to what happened on 9/11. And so the thing is she may or may not have even known about all this at the time. It could be set up behind the scenes. Maybe she doesn't even know. Maybe she does. Don't know. Not saying she does, not saying that she don't. She also makes a comment on this, which is 13 years ago. She made a comment on this video, and she made the comment. It said that she made the comment on the 10th. Not sure if that's particularly, on September 10th. Not sure if that's actually true, but it does mention that she had a blast with Tyler shooting the video. Okay, Tyler shooting. Okay, this was her comment. And so connections to the shooter and shooting. And the thing is, these things sound crazy and sound preposterous, but it's the same thing like with any circumstantial court case. Bring in all these circumstantial points of evidence, and what is something that's circumstantial? It's a coincidence. Okay, you're at this place, you didn't have an alibi, you're at that place, this coincides, this happened, you bought this in this convenience store, put you in the area, blah, blah. All these circumstantial things that mount up to where it begins to build a case. And there's a lot more to this than what I'm presenting here. But also, put this image in ChatGPT and ask the AI, okay, to analyze this. And the AI analyzed and it enhanced the image. So it says the billboard clearly reads September 10th. And before this, and all up in here, I asked about, if there's any pre-September 10th reference to this being September the 10th. You know, it says it's not, you know, that's conspiracy and social media fanfare and all of that through here. And then when it analyzes, so it says all that. It says it's the AI is saying it's the 19th, it's not the 10th, and then it analyzes the video and says, oh, clearly it's the 10th. So put whatever stock in that you want. But all of these things set in motion a timeline from Charlie Kirk when he was a child to the modern day. And right now you have this, you may not know if you're not tuned into these sort of things, but there's like this flip going on right now where it's a flip from dark to light, from things that were, you know, that they were trying to make it normalized, like the homosexual agenda, the LGBT, okay, this agenda, and try to normalize it. Now they're kind of flipping a little, you know, like with Israel, you know, oh, anything you say against Israel, that's anti-Semitism. Now they're kind of flipping it. And a lot of all these things, they're trying to flip it where it's more conservative. And because it's all about removing people from their Protestant ideals or Protestant backgrounds, okay, distancing people from that, so we can bring them back to a Catholic ideal, so that we can once again make the world Catholic. And if this sounds ridiculous and stupid, that's because you don't have all the information. You haven't seen all of the people that are in power, all of the politicians, all of the entertainers, all of the media people, all of these people that are connected to the Catholic Church and that are educated by the Catholic Church, that they work for the Catholic Church. Okay? Even people who say that they're Protestants. Okay? They secretly work for the Catholic Church. And so here, I think this is what it all comes down to. This is Charlie Kirk's new book that's slated for a December release. So next month, at the time of this recording, December 2025, that this is to be released. All right, so this book, it's Stop in the Name of God, Why Honoring the Sabbath Will Transform Your Life. And so this is his book that he wrote. He was a seventh-day Sabbath keeper. And so this whole thing with him being lifted up and profiled to where he's a household name now, this book, it says #1 bestseller. It hasn't even released yet. Okay? Hardcover, December the 9th. So this book is the #1 bestseller. It's about putting the Sabbath back in people's minds. And so from there, it's just another easy flip for most people because they're not already rooted in that there's no other option for the Sabbath other than what we call Saturday. Okay? Because when people have been taught about a Sabbath, they're taught, any day. So even though he was a seventh-day Sabbath keeper, he talks about it being on the seventh day. It's an easy flip to the first day of the week, to Sunday, which is the Sabbath that the Catholic Church recognizes, which is not the Father's Sabbath, and there's no scriptural warrant for that Sabbath to be changed ever. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law. We're under grace because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.